There have been a lot of really incredible books out in 2025, and it looks like 2026 is going to be just as bad for my wallet. Today I thought it would be fun to look at some of my most anticipated books coming out in the first half of 2026. All of these books are spread out from January through to about the end of June, which just so happens to be my birthday and where I usually like to reassess and put in some more pre-orders. This isn't supposed to be an exhaustive list. These are the books that I personally am most interested in reading, and I'd really like to see where you might overlap with me on this interest. But that does mean that we are going to be hitting really heavily into the fantasy, little bit of science fiction, little bit of horror, lots of queer stories, you know, the usual stuff. So buckle in, get a notepad, get a pen, take notes, and I really hope that you're going to find a book here that you might have missed and that you are equally as excited about as I am. The first book that is coming out in January is Benjamin Stevenson's new book, the fourth in his Ernest Cunningham series, and this one is Everyone in This Bank is a Thief. So in this we have a bank robbery, a new setting and a new mystery for Ernest to solve before we get to the usual murder mystery. I know that these books aren't for everyone. Stevenson writes in quite a voicey way. He often breaks the fourth wall. He tells you about the rules of writing crime fiction and how he, as the character that is writing the book, is either going to break them or not. But I personally have really enjoyed all the books in the series so far. I really love the big quirky casts of characters he gets, and I think this is going to be a really good one. Really light, really enjoyable, a good one to start off that kind of dark January month.
I've spent the last few years solving murders, but a bank heist is a new one, even for me. I've never been a hostage before. The doors are chained shut, no one in or out, which means that when someone in the bank is murdered, hostages become suspects. The bank robber, the manager, the security guard, the kid, the film producer, the priest, the receptionist, the patient, the caterer, me. Turns out more than one person planned to rob the bank today. You can steal more from a bank than just money. Who is stealing what? Are they willing to kill for it? And can I solve the crime before the police kick down the door and rescue us?
Then we have Apparently Sir Cameron Needs to Die by Greer Sothers. This is possibly my most anticipated book of the year. It's a debut, so it is completely new to me, and while a lot of the books on this list are sequels, and there's something really comforting about picking up a book by an author you know you love, there's just something really exciting about it being a brand new so far. This one seems like it's going to be my type of humour in fantasy. It seems like it's going to be quite wry, quite dry, quite dark, and I'm really hoping I'm going to enjoy it.
All his life, Sir Cameron has stayed as far away from danger as possible. He is, quite frankly, too handsome to die a violent and pointless death in battle. But when the church hands down a prophecy to his fellow knights, predicting that the only way to defeat their nemesis, the mad sorcerer Merulu, is to kill Cameron, he finds himself in a situation too sticky for even his considerable wiles. Short of ideas, Cameron throws himself on the mercy of the one person who now actually wants him to survive, the mad sorcerer. Murillo isn't thrilled to be babysitting a spoilt, attention-seeking knight, but fate has tied them together, and transmogrifying Cameron into a vulture is at least a great source of entertainment. Cameron, meanwhile, is on a voyage of self-discovery. It turns out he's really, really into surly sorcerers who lock him up and tell him what to do. Who knew? As a legion of knights surround their stronghold, the sorcerer's poisonous ambitions draw ever closer to fruition. Cameron is quite invested in not dying, but he finds he's also invested in Murillo. And sometimes supporting the sorcerer you care about means taking an interest in their hobbies. Even if that hobby is trying to kill God. Even if it might get you killed too.
Speaking of authors from favourite book series and why they are comforting to come back to, we have a new book, seems like a standalone, from Matt Dinniman, who is the author of Dungeon Crawler Carl. I have been devouring the Dungeon Crawler Carl series this year, and I'm really excited to see that he has a brand new. This one is also a sci-fi, and it also has a very strong video game element to it, but it seems like it's a little bit more open world, and I think it should be interesting.
All colonist Oliver Lewis ever wanted to do is run the family ranch with his sister, maybe play a gig or two with his band, and keep his family's aging fleet of intelligent agricultural bots ticking as long as possible. As a fan of Earth television and culture, he figures it'll be a good thing when the transfer gate finally opens all the way and restores instant travel and full communication between Earth and his planet, New Sonaria. But there's a complication. Even though the settlers were promised they'd be left in peace, Earth's government now has other ideas. The colossal Apex Corporation is hired to commence an eviction action, but maximising profits will always be Apex's number one priority. Why spend money printing and deploying their own AI soldiers when they can turn it into a game? Why not charge bored Earthers for the opportunity to design their own war machines and remotely pilot them from the comfort of their own homes? The game is called Operation Bounce House. Oliver and his friends soon find themselves fighting for their lives against machines piloted by gamers who've paid a premium for the privilege. With the help of an old book from his grandfather and a bucket of rusty parts, Oliver is determined to defend the only home he's ever known.
Another sequel coming out this year is All Hail Chaos by Sarah Rees Brennan. This is the sequel to Long Live Evil, which I really enjoyed last year. It is about a woman with terminal cancer who finds herself trapped in the book that she's currently reading. She takes on the role of the villainess who has a kind of ticking clock too, and it turns out she doesn't maybe remember the details of the book as well as she thought she did, which is very, very relatable.
Ray is a fantasy reader who's been transported to her favourite fictional world of swords and sorcery, castles and monsters. Playing the villainess, she thought she could change the narrative. But this version of the plot is far more deadly than the one she knew. Her friends are on the run. The Cobra shelters in an eerie manor haunted by dark secrets, while Emir and Laya stoke a revolution in the gutters. Undead armies roam the kingdom, raiders camp at the city gates, and the irresistible Emperor, Ray's favourite character ever, now possibly the greatest monster in the land, wants her to be his queen. What's a villainess to do? It's time for wicked bargains and fake engagements in a fantasy where the most dangerous thing you can do is believe in someone.
Then we have Dollface by Lindy Ryan. Lindy Ryan is an author I've been meaning to try forever. I have her, I want to say her first book, Bless Your Heart, on my Kindle, and I just haven't got to it yet. Dollface looks to be something completely new from her. It is very heavily 90s nostalgia inspired, and it's doing a kind of Scream meets Barbie. The comp titles and that are just incredible, and it sounds like it would be a lot of fun.
Horror author Jill has just moved to suburban New Jersey, hoping to fit in with the new PTA moms and, maybe, not weird everyone out with her final girl coffee mug. You know, make some real friends. And then a plastic face mask serial killer begins slashing their way through the town, one overtly made up mom at a time. The police are incredulous, the moms are indignant, and Jill is slowly wrapped into a killer's murderous spree, until she might just be the last woman standing. A delightfully murderous novel that is equally parts scathing and salacious, Dollface will win you over with its gossip and gore, one body at a time.
March 3rd, we have Green and Deadly Things by Jen Lyon. I've not read anything from Jen Lyon before, but I have seen really, really good things about her fantasy series, and I think a standalone might be a really good way to let me test out her writing and her world building and her characters without that really big, intimidating page count that is The Ruin of Kings.
Matthias has trained all his life to join the Sacred Order of the Idyllic Knights, charged with defending their world from the forces of necromancy. Only vestiges of that cursed magic remain, nothing like the fabled days of the grim lords, the undead wizards who once nearly destroyed the world. But when an even stranger kind of monster begins to wake, the knights quickly prove powerless to stop them. Whole forests are coming alive and devouring anyone so foolish as to trespass, as if the land itself has turned upon humanity. It's a good thing then that the Grim Lords were never truly destroyed. One of their number sleeps below the knight's very fortress, and when an army of twisted tree monsters attacks the young initiates in his charge, Math decides to do the unthinkable. He wakes her up. This is only the beginning of his problems, because said necromancer Kayataris knows something history has forgotten. The threat of this wild magic is part of a cycle that has repeated countless times. Life after death, chaos after order, and if she and Math can't find a new way to balance the scales, this won't just be the end of the world as they know it, but the end of all life everywhere.
March 12th, we have Hell's Heart by Alexis Hall. This is an interesting one. Hall is one of my auto-buy authors. He is prolific and writes a lot of books, and there are very few of those many books that I haven't enjoyed. I tend to rate everything he writes somewhere in that 4 or 5 star range. We just get along really well in terms of taste and humour. This one though is quite far outside of his usual and quite far outside of my comfort range, because this is a Moby Dick retelling set in space. Sci-fi and me, we struggle, and Moby Dick that's one of the hardest books ever, right? So I'm anxious, I'm apprehensive, but I'm gonna trust in Alexis Hall to know what he's doing, and I am actually really excited to give this a go.
Earth is a ruin, and the scattered remnants of humanity scavenge what they can from the stars. This under the watchful auspices of a grab bag of collectives, corporations, and churches. These are all that remains of what we once called society. Having long exhausted any conventional sources of energy, life in the solar system is now sustained by a volatile, hallucinogenic substance. This harvested from the brains of vast cetacean-like leviathans that swim the atmospheric currents of Jupiter. Finding herself with no money and little to occupy her groundside, the narrator, I, takes a commission aboard the Hunter Bark Bacode as it sets out in pursuit of these leviathans. However, once aboard, she finds herself pulled inexorably into the orbit of the bark's captain, a charismatic but frantically driven woman who the narrator names only as A. As the Bacode plunges ever deeper into the turbulent, monster-haunted atmosphere of the gas giant, the narrator begins to lose herself in the eerie world of leviathan hunting and the captain's increasingly insistent delusions. The only thing that might keep her grounded is the bond she develops with Q, a woman from the wreck of old Earth whose skin is marked with holographic light and who remembers things others have lost.
Wayward Souls by Susan J. Morris is the sequel to last year's Strange Beasts. That was a gothic, historical, urban fantasy adventure where our two protagonists went off to Paris to search through the catacombs. The two protagonists are the daughter of Mina and Jonathan Harker from Dracula and the daughter of Professor Moriarty from Sherlock Holmes. So there's quite a literary bend to these and lots of atmospheric world building in the first one. However, I think the mystery in this second one is going to cut a little closer to home. We're hopefully going to get to know a bit more about the women as people, and that's what I was really looking for in that first book, so I'm hoping that I'm going to get what I wanted from that more so in this one.
So when Special Branch requests aid in Ireland, the heart of Professor Moriarty's hidden empire, they send another agent to monitor, Van Helsing, who is perpetually suspicious of Sam and a bit of an arse. Their investigation takes them from ancient ruins to the clandestine clubs of the rich and powerful, untangling the mysteries of magic, monsters and men. But even as Sam and Hell fall deeper into each other's orbit, the secrets between them multiply. Things Hell can't bear to confess, things Sam doesn't care to confide. Things which not only put Sam in terrible danger from Van Helsing, but leave her haunted by death omens, mysterious black feathers, and a song no one else can seem to hear. And as ever, Professor Moriarty lurks in the shadows, waiting to make his next move.
On April 28th, TJ Klune has a new standalone coming out called We Burned So Bright. This one looks like it is in that more recent vein of Klune's with the bittersweet and poignant kind of vibe. I used to love his romances, his humour. I haven't been as keen on some of his more recent releases, but I'm excited to give this one a chance, and I do always love a road trip.
Husbands Don and Rodney have lived a good long life. Together, they've experienced the highest highs of love and family, and the lows so low they felt like the end of the world. Now, the world is ending for real. A wandering black hole is coming for Earth, and in a month, everything and everyone they've ever known will be gone. Suddenly, after 40 years together, Don and Rodney are out of time. They're in a race against the clock to make it from Maine to Washington State to take care of some unfinished business before it's all over. On the road, they meet those who refuse to believe death is coming and those who rush to meet it. But there are also people living their final days as best they know how. Impromptu weddings, bright burning bonfires, shared meals, and new friends. And as the black hole draws nearer, among ball lightning and under a cracked moon in a kaleidoscope sky, Don and Rodney will look back on their lives and ask if their best was good enough. Is it enough to burn bright if nothing comes from the ashes?
Duke by Anna Cowan is one of the few non-fantasy books on this TBR, and even then this is an alternate history. We have a world where women are able to be just as powerful in terms of their social ranking as men. They're just as likely to be rakes and be hiding various scandals. This one has been pitched as sort of Georgette Hare or Bridgerton but ramped up to 20. I think it could be a lot of fun, and I've just been seeing this around a lot.
Kate, Duke of Howard, is known throughout Europe as a merciless autocrat not to be crossed. Consumed by a bitter rivalry, she avoids society and has vowed never to trap women into marriage with a monster like herself. The beautiful, ambitious courtesan Celine Gannett once threw herself on the mercy of the visiting Duke of Howard. She was desperate to escape the guillotine, but after a night of searing passion, the Duke left her to the ravages of revolutionary Paris and didn't look back. Now Celine is in London and in possession of a dangerous letter that proves the Duke of Howard committed treason as a child, and possibly even murder. Celine wants a titled husband in return for keeping the Duke's secret, leaving Kate no choice but to parade her around the most fashionable ballrooms. But as Celine takes society by storm, Kate finds herself growing fond of the woman set on destroying her. And as their attraction mounts, Kate faces an impossible choice: keep her childhood secret, or win the woman she loves.
On May 7th, The Bone Door by Frances White is one that I have been waiting for. I will be seated, I will be reading it as soon as it comes into my hands. Frances White's debut, Voyage of the Damned, in 2024 was my best book of the year, and I've been really excited to see what she would do next. This one looks like it's going to be a bit darker, a bit more gothic, so I am really excited for this.
When Hop awakens in an ancient labyrinth, he has no memory of his life or how indeed he got there. He does not recognise the mysterious girl trapped with him, and he certainly cannot identify the shadowy figure stalking him, whispering terrible things. But there is one thing he is certain of: he must escape. The only way out of the labyrinth is through the Bone Door. But it lies behind a series of locked doors hidden across an array of realms. As Hop travels deeper into the maze, he discovers that he and his companions may be more connected to the place and its horrors than he could ever imagine.
On May 19th, we have Start Up Hell from Caitlin Rousakis. Rousakis has been a really reliable author since I read her debut. Her sense of humour just really works for me. She does that really wry sense of humour that reminds me quite a lot of someone like Terry Pratchett, or maybe T. Kingfisher. Dreadful was about sorcerers and kind of social division. The Grimoire Grammar Parent Teacher Association was about school and being part of the in crowd. And Start Up Hell looks like it's going to be about more corporations and the workplace.
Morgan Blackwater's mother is a kick-ass, world-saving, demon-slaying Shadow Council wizard. As for Morgan's a junior salesperson at a tech startup that can't even decide what its product is. But with magic dyslexia and a disinclination to kick ass, Morgan is doing her best to carve out a niche for herself in the mundane world. Leaving work late one night, she discovers her boss dead from the effort of summoning a demon to trade his soul in order to make his quarterly target. The disturbingly attractive demon, Lucarioth, or Luke for short, is trapped here until he finds someone to sell their soul. While trying to sneak Luke out of the building, Morgan runs into her infamous mother. Someone has been summoning demons, and she's here to get to the bottom of it. Trying to protect Luke from her mother, Morgan gets sucked into the infernal plane and discovers hell really is a corporate nightmare. She only gets back home with a promise to deliver a human soul of her own. While her co-workers are really annoying, she's not willing to sacrifice their souls. The company's tech bro CEO, though, is another story.
Villain by Natalie Nina Walshots has been put back a few times now, but it looks like the sequel to Hench is finally going to be coming out in May, and I'm really excited about this one. Superheroes, I have read so many superhero books and just something about them never clicks for me as books the way it does in movies or TV or comics. But Hench was the one. Hench worked for me as a superhero story. I didn't know if I wanted a sequel for it until the very end. I think it could have worked as a standalone.
Anna, better known to superheroes as the Auditor, has carved out a name for herself. Any hero unlucky enough to cross her path knows her potential and powers. She has an incredible job with lots of perks, and her boss will literally annihilate anyone who crosses her. And her greatest enemy, the former hero Super Collider, has been utterly defeated and literally ground into a pulp. But Anna still has her sights set on a greater enemy, destroying the Draft, the organisation that makes, trains and manages the world's most powerful superheroes. These heroes have shown time and time again that they do more harm than good, and now is the time to stop the damage at its source. Yet all is not well for the Auditor and her fellow evildoers. Her employer, Leviathan, the world's most feared supervillain, is not coping well with Super Collider's defeat at someone else's hands. Moreover, her unlikely ally and unexpected friend, Quantum Entanglement, has vanished without a trace, leaving Anna to examine all the ways they deceived each other. Tension and uncertainty fill the air, and fear that this moment of triumph is about to crumble looms over them all. Anna soon finds herself facing down an opponent unlike any she's taken on before. Not another superhero, but someone like her. The Draft's chief marketing officer. This isn't a test of physical prowess, but ideas, and as the fight spirals deeper and deeper, with new foes popping up every day, she'll need more than just her superpower, data research, to keep ascending through the supervillain ranks. It's guerrilla ad warfare, and the Auditor might have finally met her match.
And then finally, the last book on this list is Catherine Arden's new book, The Unicorn Hunters. Do I know anything about this book at all? No. I know it's maybe vaguely historical inspired and has a magical element, but that's honestly all I needed to know. I love Catherine Arden's writing and I'm really excited to see this new story.
Anne of Brittany was a child when her realm was invaded, her home besieged, and her royal father driven to his death. Now her treasury is empty, her land occupied by her enemies, and she is ordered, under threat of renewed war, to become queen of her conquerors and marry the King of France. This marriage means her country's annexation, but Anne promised her father that Brittany would never be conquered. Defiantly, she betroths herself in secret to France's greatest enemy, but in a world where courts may spy on each other by magic, there is only one way to solemnize this illicit union. It takes her court deep into the legendary forest, where the court diviner's skill cannot reach. The world thinks they are only a hunting party coursing after unicorns, but that is a lie, a trick, a feint. No one in living memory has seen a unicorn. All Anne wants is this secret wedding, which is her only hope of salvation. But when against all hope, a unicorn appears and a stranger out of legend stumbles from the trees and falls at her feet, Anne is plunged into a world of enchantment where a doomed sovereign might find the power to change her own and her country's destiny, or be lost in the shadows forever.
So there you have it. Those are the books that I am at the moment the most excited to read in 2026, at least in that first half. There's probably plenty of books that as the year goes on that I don't currently know anything about, but I think it's a really good place to start. Let me know if any of these books have caught your attention. Let me know what your most anticipated book of 2026 is so that I can check it out. And as always, if you would like to like the video and maybe subscribe to the channel, then I would really appreciate that, and I would love to see you as we go into 2026 and hopefully get to read some of these books. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you hopefully in the next video. Goodbye.